For 400 years, this was one of the great capitals of the world. Ships from Persia, Japan, Holland, and France tied up at its wharves. Its king exchanged ambassadors with Versailles. Then, in a single April, it was gone. This is the history of Ayutthaya. The lower Chao Phraya basin was never empty. Long before Ayutthaya, 3 or 4 port towns already traded here. Lavo, which we now call Lopburi, looked east toward Anchor. Suphannabhum, in the west, was the heir of older Dvaravati. Historians such as Chonbid Kasatsiri argue that Ayutthaya was not a conquest at all. It was a merger. By tradition, and its only tradition, the kingdom was founded in 1351 by a man remembered as U Thong, crowned Ramathibodi the First. The chronicles offer at least 7 competing stories of who he was: a northern Thai prince, a Chinese merchant prince, a Khmer noble. Beyond the year of his death, they record almost nothing else about him. What is not in doubt is where he put his capital, an island ringed by 3 rivers, the Chao Phraya, the Lopburi, and the Passac. UNESCO notes the site was chosen because it sat above the tidal bore of the Gulf of Siam as it then stood. Merchant ships could come up the river, seagoing warships could not. It was a capital designed to be open to trade and closed to navies. The union was messier than the founding date suggests. 2 lines, one from Lopburi and one from Suphannabhum, traded the throne for half a century, taking the city from each other in 1370, 1388, and again in 1408. Early Ayutthaya was a maritime power. Its fleets pushed down the Malay Peninsula and demanded tribute as far as Sumatra. Ma Huan, a scribe traveling with the Chinese admiral Zhang He, described a rowdy port town whose men trained to fight on the water and where the women ran the business of daily life. In 1431, Ayutthayan armies moved against Angkor. Thai chronicles describe a siege of 7 months, but historians disagree sharply over how much of Angkor was actually destroyed, and its decline had causes far older than Siamese armies, including a collapse of the monsoon. What is clear is that the Khmer court moved south and never came back. Closer to home, the old kingdom of Sukhothai came under Ayutthaya's shadow from 1412. When its king died in 1438, Ayutthaya annexed it outright and sent a 7-year-old prince to govern it. That prince became King Trailakhanat, and he rebuilt the state. He split the civil and military administration, replaced princely rulers with appointed governors, and in 1454 he codified the Saktina system. Every subject now carried a number: a slave, 5 units, a free man, 25, and upward, the heir to the throne, no fewer than 100,000. That system was not dismantled until 1892. In 1511, weeks after taking Malacca, the Portuguese sent an envoy up the river. They were the first Europeans to reach the kingdom. 5 years later came a treaty, then trading rights, then Portuguese mercenaries fighting in Siamese armies. For a long time afterwards, Portuguese was a language of diplomacy at the Siamese court. Then came Burma, 3 invasions in a single generation, a failed siege in 1547, a surrender in 1564 that carried the royal family off to Pegu, and in 1569, the capture of Ayutthaya itself. But no, what did not happen? The city was not destroyed, a vassal king was installed, and Ayutthaya went on standing. Independence returned in 1584, under the king remembered as Naresuan. In January 1593 he met the Burmese crown prince in battle, and the prince died. Thai tradition remembers a duel fought on elephant back. Burmese chronicles record only that he was felled by a Siamese firearm. With the wars over, Ayutthaya became the middleman between empires. The Dutch, the English, and the French all set up trading houses. Downriver of the palace stood whole foreign quarters, each building in its own style. The Japanese quarter alone held around 1,500 people. Traders, Christians fleeing persecution at home, and masterless samurai from the losing side of Sekigahara. Under King Narai, the court looked outward as never before. French engineers built its fortifications. French missionaries brought in the first printing press. And in 1686, an embassy from Ayutthaya was received by Louis XIV at Versailles. UNESCO records a court exchanging ambassadors with Versailles, with Delhi, with Japan, and with China. How large did it grow? UNESCO says one of the world's largest and most cosmopolitan urban areas. The much repeated figure of the million people rests on a single comparative study. Britannica will commit only to this. At its height, the city may have supported hundreds of thousands of residents. In 1688, Narai fell ill and the court turned on itself. At the center stood a Greek adventurer, Constantine Phocon, who had risen to become the king's chief minister. In June, he was beheaded. Narai died in detention weeks later, and his captor took the crown. Whether Phocon was a would-be kingmaker or a convenient scapegoat is argued over to this day. The old story says Siam then turned inward and decayed. Recent scholarship largely rejects it. Trade with King China was booming. What decayed was not the economy, but the state. Succession struggles, provinces in revolts, and a conscription system that nobody had needed for a generation. In 1765, two Burmese armies crossed the border and converged on the island. They did not lift the siege for the rains, as every previous army had. They waited it out and ringed the city with 27 fort towers. In January 1767, one Siamese commander, Phraya, broke out through the encirclement and rode east. In April, the Burmese tunneled beneath the walls and burned out the foundations until the northeastern section collapsed. After 14 months, the 400-year-old capital fell. The frosty Sanford Buddha, the protective image of the kingdom for 2.5 centuries, was melted down for the gold that covered it. Tens of thousands were marched north, among them the court's dancers and craftsmen. Phraya came back, now known as Taksin. He retook Ayutthaya within 7 months of its fall, but he judged the ruin indefensible and was crowned instead downriver at Thonburi. 15 years later, his general took the throne as Rama the First and founded Bangkok. And here is the part usually left out. What the fires began, the builders of Bangkok finished. The new capital was raised in part from Ayutthaya's own bricks. Ayutthaya became a historical park in 1976, an UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1991. In October 2011, the embankments failed and the water came back into the old city and it had to be evacuated. The full Thai name of Bangkok still contains the word Ayutthaya. The capital moved, the name never did.